The first thing he talks about lying. Lying is amongst the ugliest of sins and the most abominable of blemishes. The Prophet ﷺ said, a bondsman would lie and carry on lying until he is written down with Allah as a liar. This hadith has two parts to it. There's the part which also talks about those who speak the truth and act accordingly, that they continue to do that until Allah writes them from the truthful champions. And this is the other part of this hadith, that someone continuously lies to the point that they are then written with Allah as a brazen liar. And that's very important, because what that tells us, this hadith in its full light, it gives us the understanding that it's not just one time you do something, that's it, you're like cast out. It talks about it in the sense of there's a progression, there's an incremental stages to getting to a point where you are then almost say branded, you become sealed, if you want to put it that way. So you can be sealed in goodness, or you can be sealed in being removed from Allah's mercy. And that's really important, because we understand that the nature of how we are, we fluctuate, we oscillate in this struggle. And so we should always remember that we're trying to make our trajectory more consistent towards what is the truth and what is good. And in that process, there may be times we end up falling on our heels or falling back a bit, but that doesn't then flung us straight into this idea that we're now written amongst liars. So there's a realism to this. There's a realism of accepting that we're not always going to be 100%. At the same time, this understanding that we have this overwhelming desire and objective to be 100%. So why is lying such a major thing? Well, there's types of lying. So it's not just every single untruth is, that's it, you're going to hell, mate. You're actually going to see situations where it's advised to lie. And there, I wouldn't use the word lying. I'd rather keep the word lying for those things that are strictly blameworthy. You're advised to tell the untruth or accommodate the truth. Be economical with the truth. So we understand, hopefully it's quite clear, when is lying absolutely prohibited is when it's going to cause a harm to the other person, or it's going to cause a harm to others, because you're getting them to see something that isn't really the case, or understand something that's not how it is. But then he turns his attention to when in those circumstances is it mitigated, like when you can. Kulthum, she said, I've never heard that Allah's Messenger ﷺ give any legal mitigation about lying except in 3 cases. So these are the 3. One is when you can tell an untruth for the purposes of bringing about reconciliation between parties. Then the second point is in battle, in war. Obviously, the Prophet said in another hadith, Al-Harbul Khida', war is deception, right? Deception is different to treachery, because deception is to give the impression of things, and it's a stratagem in war, well acknowledged, very much required. And the third is this very interesting, is the question of husband and wife and husband, right? Where degrees of untruth can be said. Like, there's nothing too wrong in giving the impression that you've spent a lot of money on your better half on something, when you actually got it for a good price, like a wicked sale. Yeah, something like that's all right. You can get by with that. That's a buy, man. Because obviously they feel nice and they feel a bit more important by it. You're not saying you actually break. You'll just be like, yeah. You're like, oh, you had you. Oh, But then remember, she could do the same thing, right? And obviously, no way does this in any way suggesting, as in untruth, that would shatter the very foundations of what any marriage is established on, which is absolute trust.